Well, I'm joined now from Birmingham by Chris Huhne, the Lib Dems Home Affairs spokesman. Just as we start this conversation, Mr. Huhne, for clarity, straight yes or no, does this triple lock rule apply to your leader?
Well, I think, as far as I know, it hasn't been changed since then, so I've always assumed that it would. But I think, frankly, the revelation.
So you've always assumed. You've always assumed the rules do apply to the leader. So we're absolutely clear of that. So if you're in the position of kingmaker, if you're in the position of kingmaker, you have to go to your party to ask which party you can get into bed with.
We have made very clear that the only kingmakers around are those amongst the voters who will be making a decision on May the 6th. The Liberal Democrats aren't the kingmakers in this election. It's going to be
they vote for you in a hung parliament.
Let me deal with your question, which is, I think it would be extraordinarily rash of any party leader, and I'm sure that Nick would agree with this, to go ahead with an arrangement with another party without the support of three-quarters of the MPs in the parliamentary party. And I find it quite astonishing that this is regarded as somehow an obstacle, because clearly what you have to do in a coalition is sign up, or in any other arrangement, is sign up to a whole series of objectives, and you need both parties willing support for that if it's a two-party coalition, and in the past we've even had three-party coalitions.
Right.
And there have to be clear understandings about what those objectives are, and all of the parties have to be signed up to them. So this seems to me to be
means in terms of your rules,
non-story, frankly.
Right, well, I'm glad you think it's a non-story, but what it would mean is that if you hold the balance of power conceivably, you would then, after an election, seek the votes of 75% of your MPs, 75% of the party executive, or conceivably, you would hold an election of all 60,000 of your party members, which would be what vote Lib Dem, vote dither.
The arrangement, say 75% of the federal executive, 75% of the MPs. I think that's the obvious normal arrangement that was contemplated in that resolution. The reality is that there were then proposals that if there was some sort of deadlock, there weren't enough MPs or whatever, then it could go to a special conference, which could actually be held very, very quickly. So I simply don't see this. I know that in the world of 24-hour news, everybody in journalism likes to have everything buttoned up yesterday.
Well,
but the reality is that every other country in Europe, every other country in Europe that has much better government than we do, the countries that have actually got the real problems in Europe are Greece and ourselves, which have a tradition of single-party government. And I think that people are crying out
they don't balance their members.
One party to be given an overall dictatorial control over everything that happens in this country.
Well, I'm not aware of any other country that balances members of its party to decide on the government after an election. But you used to be a financial journalist. What would this do to the markets?
I used to be a journalist. I used to be a journalist indeed in Brussels, and I can assure you that when there is coalition building in Belgium, it's quite often the case that there are formal party soundings and sometimes a special conference in particular parties before they sign up. I mean, if you have a democratic system and democratic parties, people don't expect party leaders to ride roughshod over their parties as if they were some latter-day tin pot Napoleon Bonaparte. And I just find it astonishing that you would think in a democracy it would be other than perfectly normal for a party leader to consult the federal executive and the MPs and make sure
Paddy
that at least
Ashdown didn't seem to think so.
The MPs are actually on board.
Paddy Ashdown didn't seem to think so, and he seemed to rather suggest the whole thing was a bit of a joke.
Well, I didn't, I'm afraid, have the benefit of seeing any clip that you had with Paddy, but I'd be surprised about that, frankly, because I don't remember at the time Paddy regarding this as a terrible imposition on his leadership. All leaders of all political parties always have to consult and make sure that their followers are behind them when they go over the top into battle, and that's all that's happening here. And frankly, every other country in Europe, with the exception of Greece, which also has rotten single-party governments, has managed to live with coalition governments and these sort of arrangements for years with much better results than the sort of boom and bust results we've seen from Labour and the Tories. So I simply find, frankly, your surprise rather surprising.
Mr. Huhne, thank you very much.